and welcome to another exciting episode of Weekly Entertainment. Welcome back for another broadcast week of Madcap Mayhem and broadcast journalism. I am your host, and so grab yourself a big bucket of buttered popcorn, get the kids in the room, and sit your arse down and get ready for some intrigue today. Because we have returning one of my favorite guests on the show, Miss Carol Teegardin, author of the book Strawberry, How an Exotic Dancer Toppled Detroit's Hip-Hop Mayor. As you all know, Kwame Kilpatrick was in the news lately, and he was found guilty on a whole string of charges, which we're going to get into with Carol coming right up. But first, let me give you a plug, because we like to talk about what goes on here and, around the city and things to do. Well, I went to I checked out a movie, actually the other night, with a very special lady friend of mine. Sorry, ladies, I'm taken. Jurassic Park 3D. We went and saw this at the Henry Ford IMAX Theater, and I just have to say, it was just incredible. I have seen the movie before when it came out back in 1990, I believe it was 93. And the 3D treatment was just incredible. I mean, I've seen a lot of 3D movies, and frankly, I don't like 3D movies. But this movie, it was almost like it was made for 3D. It still holds up to this day. The 3D effects were incredible. And take your friends, family, everyone. I don't know about little kids. It's kind of gory. It's implied violence. There's no blood or anything, but it still might be some disturbing imagery for children. But I cannot recommend it enough, ladies and gentlemen. And you have to see it on the IMAX. Some regular movie theaters, I haven't seen it in a regular movie theater with 3D yet. The last 3D movie I saw was it was Prometheus. Again, I don't like 3D movies. It actually doesn't work for me half the time. It still looks kind of flat. But so I don't know if it was the IMAX or just the 3D treatment the movie got itself, but it was incredible. So if you want something fun to do this weekend, and if it's still playing, go check out Jurassic Park 3D at your local IMAX theater, or go to the Henry Ford Museum. Very cool place, very cool facility. Well, coming up right after this break, we're going to have Carol Teegardin. We're going to be talking about her book and the recent intrigue surrounding Kwame Kilpatrick and his racketeering trial, and what became of Strawberry. And apparently, Miss Teegardin has a film script in the works, a screenplay. So we have a lot to cover. So stay tuned, and again, make yourself a big bucket of buttered popcorn, and we will be right back. All right, and we are back with my very special guest, the lovely, the talented Carol Teegardin. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks so much for coming back to join us. Now, a lot has happened since the last time you were on the show.
Right.
The Kwame Kilpatrick racketeering verdict has come down.
It sure has.
And I'm sure you were glued to the TV set, or were you actually down there?
I wasn't down there. I was
Okay.
home. Actually, I was recovering from a kidney transplant.
Oh, geez.
So I was on the
didn't know.
couch. So it was
Okay.
kind of a perfect time for me to watch that, and I watched it. I had two computers and a TV going. And,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had it on, various sources,
Uh-huh.
CNN or Fox News or something.
Right.
Now, which news outlet do you watch when you...
HLN all the
HLN.
time. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
addicted to the Jodi Arias trial.
Oh.
So I watched
I don't know
that.
anything about that.
Oh, it will take a year to explain it, but
Okay.
it's about a woman who killed her boyfriend, and HLN is just running the whole trial. I
Oh,
like
wow. Okay.
to watch trials.
Oh, I bet. And especially the Kwame Kilpatrick one, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah.
No, what were your thoughts on what transpired?
Well, in the conviction,
Yeah.
well, I think the jury was right on. I think
Absolutely.
they weren't swayed by some of the antics that were going on in the courtroom.
I was kind of afraid it would go that way. I was almost positive we were going to end up with a hung jury.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I thought too,
Oh, yeah.
and I think that's what they were hoping for.
Yeah.
And why they were so smug going through the whole thing. But I think justice was accomplished in
Yes.
Detroit, and I think Detroit can move on from it instead of sitting and mired down with this for years and years and years.
Which we were.
And they can move on and heal.
I hope so.
That's what I thought as I watched
I
it. I
did
thought
too,
that
I
we've
was
had
thinking-
enough of it. I'm not
Yeah.
writing anything more. I wrote,
That was going to be another question. Yeah, is there going to be a follow-up book now
No.
about the
No.
racketeering trial? No?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. I'll leave that up to Jim Schaefer. I think he's going to do
Okay.
it free press. So.
Oh, really?
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
This whole trial was just so... It was fascinating. I mean, it was horrible, what this man did to the city and how he brought it down.
I know.
But on the other coin, it was pretty entertaining. You
But he
have to
was the
admit.
only one who brought it down. There were quite a few other people involved.
sure.
I mean, to be fair, and they were, Mayor Young didn't help things either. Towards the end,
Oh,
he didn't.
yeah.
He was so sick for so many years that
He was.
things were accomplished that should have been.
Well, do you see the city coming back now?
I know I've been. People have been talking about this for the last 20 years.
They have. They
like
really
the city's
have.
coming back, the city's coming back, and you go and see a couple of things, a couple of streets that look good, and you think, well, yeah, maybe this is true. But I traveled during this book. I traveled 129 miles of Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Just to get a feel of what it's like and what I'm writing about, and it's
Sure.
devastated. There's things that it would take billions of dollars to rebuild some of the old buildings. They're just going to have to tear them down.
Exactly. Tear it
Just
down and start over
dilapidated
again.
schools are in shambles. There are some good schools, but most of them are a mess. And
The police and fire
but
departments.
yeah,
they have
and the
outdated
money
equipment.
situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm hoping that something good can come out of it, but I think it'll again take a
hope.
long time.
Again, I'm one of those suburbanites that maybe I'll go to a Tigers game or a Red Wings game, then I'll get right out of the city.
Yeah, well,
I know that
It
happens
might be
quite
wise now. There's
I
a lot
think
of murders in the
so.
city, and not enough police to cover it all.
a bit. We thought the casinos might have brought in. It did bring in an influx of cash, but again, I don't know if it was the right direction for the city.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's a big question. I think that it was originally, I like the idea of the casinos being on the waterfront.
Sure,
And I don't know
yeah.
how that got all switched around,
Absolutely.
but I go to the casino, so I can't
Do
say
you?
too
Do
much
you?
about it every now and then, yeah.
I went there once. I lost $50, and
Oh,
I haven't been
no.
there since. The buffets were really good though.
Yeah.
But back to the subject of your book. I understand you're writing you wrote a
Well,
screenplay.
I
on it.
wrote a screenplay. It's finished, but I'm retooling it, and you always
you're
do
retooling
that.
it.
And,
Okay, of
it's
course.
like you put it in the desk drawer, and then you bring it back out, and you start retooling it and doing more on it. And I'm actually going to meet a director tonight.
Are you really?
Yeah,
Congratulations.
He's previewing a film at the Imagine Theater in Royal Oak.
Oh,
and so I'm
very
going to
nice.
meet him and take my script and my book. It's trying to get a script is so much sold is so much different than trying to get a book published.
Okay. Yeah.
And you have to sort of network. You have to do a little more running around. You don't
That's
just send
true.
it somewhere, really.
Oh yeah. I've had experience on both sides. I'm writing a book right now, and I have written screenplays, and it is tough. So I
Yeah.
know exactly what you're going through.
Yep.
But again, it is a lot of fun though.
It
The
is.
whole creating something like that, and especially with that kind of message. And I just think I've read your book twice now, and I have to say both times while I was reading it, I was thinking this would make such a good movie. You can just, or maybe an episode of, say, one of those crime dramas.
Oh yeah, it could be that.
Like NCIS
Yeah,
or
it's true crime.
yeah, exactly.
I wrote it as a
It's-
true
it's-
crime book because I read a lot of true crime stories. I'm reading one right now. Anne Rand is my favorite. Anne Rule. Anne Rule.
Okay, Anne Rule.
It's
Okay.
one of my favorite
Anne
authors, not
Rand's a
Anne
little
Rand.
different, yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
so yeah, and I really enjoyed the format, and putting, and it's totally different in a screenplay because you have to take that
It is.
format and turn it all around
Sure.
and sort of fictionalize it, which is a scary process when it's a true story,
Does the screenplay follow the book at all?
Yes.
It does?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much follows it all the way through. I expand, of course, on the bachelor party and,
Oh, you did?
and
Okay.
Tamara Green's involvement and all that. But I've changed names, so I don't think it's a problem. I hope not. Yeah, I'll have to move to Alaska or something. I don't know.
Well, obviously, you have changed the names to avoid backlash.
Yes,
Um,
but the situation is still the same.
exactly. Now, who'd you get to play Kwame Kilpatrick in this?
John Sally.
John Sally. Yeah. Okay, well, that's interesting. A former Piston, obviously.
I met him once, and he said he'd like to act, but he's too tall. And I thought, hey, he'd be perfect. I'm sort of just kidding. I thought that he'd be fun to work with. I'd like to be a part of it if possible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like actually have a small role.
A small role. Yeah, I actually wrote a role for myself because I used to act in Detroit.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, about 15 years ago, I was in a couple of movies, and just
really?
for fun. And then when the Free Press went on strike, I couldn't afford to do that just for fun anymore. I had to get work, outside work.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
I did it for a while, and it was great.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I made a few little indie films myself too. It's it's a blast. It's
yeah,
fun.
it is. But you don't get paid. So.
No, you don't, unfortunately, and that's pretty important.
I know.
Why would anyone care about a Kwame Kilpatrick movie? I mean,
I think
a lot of people would say he's committed the crime. Now he's going to repay his debt to society, and it's time to move on. Exactly.
Move away. Well, I feel partly that way too. Because I don't really want to do anything more about this and kind of done with it. But I think the story itself is so important because this is not just happening in Detroit. It's happening in Ecorse. It's happening in Highland Park. It's happening all over the country in these towns where these mayors have been able to get away with this kind of stuff, taking from the voters and not going into office not for the right reasons, but to make money instead of to help the city. And I think it's more of an expose that can be wide-reaching in this area, maybe show what they're doing. A lot of people don't really know exactly what they're doing, and it's hard to get that when you read it in a newspaper. What's the civic fund, or what's the voters' fund? Well, these are funds that the voters pay into, and Kwame Kilpatrick used that like a piggy bank, paying for gentlemen's massages, going off to Vegas with his wife and, entourage of people.
Right.
And the city... the voters paid for that. I mean, that wasn't supposed to come out of our money,
Okay.
That's supposed to come out of other money. And he used the city credit card, and he used, he got vehicles. I think it's always been done. I think in defense of Kwame Kilpatrick, I think that this has been done for so long that he probably thought, well, this is the way it's done in Detroit. That's what Sam Riddle said before he went to jail. He said, this is how it's done in Detroit.
Oh, boy.
And I think he should have had some sort of a switch in his head that would have said, no, this isn't how it's done in Detroit. But I think he was naive and gullible, and I think he also followed his father's footsteps in being a criminal. Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating, actually.
Mm-hmm. But I blame his father.
Well, Kwame Kilpatrick was also very young. He was the youngest.
He was 31.
Yeah.
And so I blame my daughter's age, and I blame the father. I really do. I think even the mother, because she enabled a lot of this stuff to go on and didn't stop it. Because I know what my kid is like at 31, and pretty naive and silly in a lot of ways. And they should have said, no, let's pull back on this stuff. Not do it. And they enabled it and pushed it forward.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it also seems like Kwame got wrapped up in the whole hip-hop lifestyle. Some of the parties he had.
Yeah. He had Eminem over to his house. But again, he was 31 years old, so,
Honestly, you can't really blame him. I mean, you're put in that position of power.
Oh, I blame him.
And,
I blame him for what he did. I can see
where it would where it would be easy to fall into that lifestyle. I mean, it would be tempting.
But he was given a whole lot of power, and he abused it, so he's got to pay for it. Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned a voters' fund. For some of our viewers out there who don't know what that is, what is the
voters
pay
into? They raise money, and the voters' fund is for the campaign. So he's supposed to spend money campaigning. Okay. And not for frills and not for
a new Cadillac Escalade for his wife and.
I don't know if that came out of the voters' fund, but the other stuff that they documented, and I don't have all the notes with me, but a lot of stuff. I sat in the courtroom when he went through his previous trials, and I sat and I was listening to all the stuff that he got,
Oh, it was incredible, yeah. Some of the things I've read online about, and some of the lavish gifts he received from his various donors. I don't think we can name names here.
Oh, no. We don't want to do that.
I used to work for one of them. I guess that's all I can say about it, but I worked at one of his facilities, and Yeah, I would see, brand new custom Mercedes Benzes V12s come in giant crates, and
Oh,
we'd have to open these up, because it was going to be a gift for somebody. But that's all I'm going to say about it.
well, thanks and no thanks to the Patriot Act, which I don't really believe in the Patriot Act.
Okay.
I don't like it, but in a way, people are being watched now in ways they've never been watched before. And that's how they caught Kwame Kilpatrick. They were able to subpoena the text messages that might not have been done 10 years ago.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Other things, they can tap, they can wiretap, they can come right into your home or into your office. And I certainly don't agree with all that, but I think that's what's going on, and that's how these people are being caught, the good or bad, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So I don't get into that in my screenplay mostly. I just get into what they did. It's sort of a rising action. He came into
Sure.
office. He was popular. Women would kiss his hands. He was called
Really?
King Kwame when he
I-
walked
yeah,
into
I-
places.
King Kwame, yeah.
And I think he was too young. I think that gave him made him really narcissistic, and
Very.
it gave him too much power too fast, I think.
And his family did, his mother did refer to him, or she did state a couple
My
times,
king.
my king.
Mhm.
I gave birth to a king.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, my parents said, always said I was going to end up digging ditches. What did I give birth to? That's what I heard growing up, but I'm sure that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So the screenplay, I have him, basically I show the different things that I read about and that were in my book about how he ascended to power.
Yeah,
And then the climax is the party. That's really,
yeah.
in my eyes now, a lot of people differ. A lot of people have a differ, they feel like it was
A lot of people claim it never even happened.
never happened and all that. But he really, I feel he had the party. It wasn't meant to start out at Manugia, and it was supposed to. It was started out at the Residence Inn and then moved to the Manugia. But they had a lot of parties.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That
that's what
nobody.
it seemed
Yeah, I
like.
mean, I'm sure Carlita Kilpatrick knew about the parties, but this particular one, they had dancers at the party, and I think they had dancers at the other parties. But this one, there was a fight, and
Now, when you say dancers, so the people watching, their actual
exotic dancers.
exotic dancers,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and I believe, and I've read all the court papers, so I don't know. I believe, in my view, they had the party, and Carlita finally had enough and came in, and there was an issue. There was a fight, and but nobody can prove it because
Right.
what they did is they had two witnesses, and because the one witness was a motorcycle guy and the other one was another exotic dancer, they said they were nuts and discounted those affidavits.
Yet the firearms used could allegedly police issued Glock 40s.
Oh, you mean for Tammy's?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
your segue. Yeah, 6 months later, Tamara Green died. Now, there could have never been a party, and she could have never been affiliated with the party.
Correct.
That could have not have, that might not have happened, right?
Right.
We don't know.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter because the city of Detroit is a rumor mill, and
Of course.
because she died and her name was connected to the party and that rumor was out there, everybody began talking about it. It became a huge rumor that Kwame or his bodyguards or somebody in his administration had something to do with it. So he quashed it. He wanted it stopped, I believe. And that's the gist of the lawsuit that Norm Yatuma filed. They wanted it stopped. They were harassing different police officers, which I documented. They
sure,
either
it's
got
on your book,
demoted or
yeah.
fired. Al Bowman was demoted. He was a detective. He was taken off the case after 3 weeks. They sent it to cold case, and in the process, it made it the family was unable to sue the city for a wrongful death case.
Right.
So that's why Yatuma came in and had it was a federal lawsuit that he filed, not wrongful death, but he filed for a cover-up. And that's kind of what I cover in the book a little bit,
Which was very
but not really
compelling.
in the screenplay. I didn't get that
Okay.
far to it. It's sort of like it builds up to that, and then I leave it because everybody knows about that
Sure.
anyway, and it's boring stuff. I wanted to do the sexy stuff.
Which is another thing that struck me about the book. You really went out of your way to make Strawberry, Tamara Green, to show her humanity. That she's not just a, sleazy stripper.
Like we think of, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
She actually cared for her children very much. She had great support from her family, and she was actually looking to open an honest business.
She was, yeah.
Yes.
She was going to have a store for dancers. I mean, I don't know how not sleazy that would be. But
Well, yeah, but still, I mean,
she would still be affiliated with dancers and
Sure.
probably drug people and everything in her store.
Well,
but she was going to quit dancing. But she had two sides to her, like Kwame had two sides, and I tried to make that a real theme in my screenplay. That they had a good side, they had this, he really, I think, truly wanted to help Detroit at some point early on. And I think she really, truly wanted to get out of dancing early on. But I think that money kept them doing the things that were wrong, immoral, and went against their maybe good character. And that's a fight that all of us have to deal with,
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's a universal theme. They they strayed, and then both of them ended up with she died, and he's going to end up in jail,
For quite a while.
Maybe it's a lesson to some people that, money isn't everything. And I tried to play that up in the screenplay because if she would have left Detroit when her aunt called her and told her to get out of Detroit, people were chasing her. Yeah. And she was getting death threats, and she was just sleeping in her car some nights. She was afraid to go home. She might still be alive and still be the mother to her children.
That's true.
But she wouldn't leave because she wanted to make money. She had private parties, and she was.
I understand she made a lot more doing the private parties than she would actually at some of these clubs.
And those are still popular. The clubs, they don't make as much as they used to because of the internet.
Oh, okay.
And men can go right on the internet now. And
I've never really been into the whole scene,
stuff,
so I really don't know the scene.
But they're not inhabiting the clubs. Okay. They're giving the girls $10. They used to throw hundreds at them. So they're not, and even that was starting around the time she wanted to quit. So she was getting out of that. She did private parties. She was souring on that stuff because she didn't like what went on there. And she really, I think, would have gotten out of the business. But she, she had to have money, so she had to have money for the store. And that's why she died.
And she got involved with these unsavory characters.
Because of money.
Yeah.
They had the money.
That's what it all boils down to, it looks like.
And so did Kwame. He got involved with something. I think Bobby Ferguson led him astray. And I don't know Bobby Ferguson. I don't know anything much about what he did, but I do know that there were a lot of things that went on where he made a ton of money. Absolutely. And Kwame got some of it. He got some of it, but they just, I think they just got $400,000 out of Bobby Ferguson's stash. He stashed it away.
Did they?
That was in the paper yesterday.
They did recover some. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So I was reading some of the court documents, some of the deals that, some of the kickbacks and all the sweetheart deals.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling.
And it was kicked back to Kwame, and I think, I don't know about his dad, but it was kicked back to Kwame. And at least the court has proven that. And once again, I just feel like this one man said, when I interviewed him a couple of years ago, he said, Kwame, the problem with Kwame Kilpatrick is he surrounded himself with his high school friends. He had too many of his cronies, in the office with him, and they shouldn't have been, and it really hurt him.
It did, along with his father too. Who was defiant even to the end. I remember right after the verdict came down, they were taking him out of the courthouse, and the Fox News reporter Charlie LaDuff, he's really in your face. I remember, Bernard Kilpatrick, all he had to say was, Kwame didn't steal a dime. So he was just defiant right up until the end. I thought it was actually quite disgusting, but I mean...
Sins of the father, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, he actually got off pretty light.
He did. He actually did.
They always called him the Teflon Man. Now I know why. But he actually, they didn't have the evidence, I guess, on him that they had on Kwame and on Bobby Ferguson. So.
Oh, sure. There was this amount of evidence against Kwame. It was pretty much I was expecting him to buy off a juror or something like that, especially when you heard the stories of the juror that would constantly become sick.
Yeah.
And, he had a couple of those occasions. And thinking, okay, now he's trying to throw a monkey wrench into it, and we're going to see a hung jury, but it didn't happen.
No, it happened with Bobby Ferguson's case.
Oh, yeah?
Hung jury, and then they, I guess they're going to retry him. I don't know. How many court cases can you get involved in? Maybe he was naive, too. He was as young as Kwame. He was only in his early 30s, so you got to think maybe there was a part of him that thought, hey, they've gotten away with this for years, and you know, we can be a part of it, and we can claim that it's equal opportunity, and you know, because if you, but I don't know, you know, I don't know what their motives were, really, you know, other than that they probably wanted money, you know. Well,
your book is just absolutely compelling. It's such a good read. The way it flows, it definitely flows like a movie, and so we're pretty much running out of time here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the last 2 minutes in this segment. So if somebody wants to get a copy of your book, Strawberry, how would they?
Well, I'm in the process of turning it into an ebook.
Okay.
And so that's coming up, and it's available at Barnes & Noble. And
excellent.
It's in Troy, at least I know it's still
Congratulations.
there. Or you can order it. And it's also available on Amazon.com.
Amazon.com? Okay, great.
Yeah.
And it's called Strawberry?
And it's at the Book Beat. I have it at the Book Beat, and I have it at Harlem World or something. It's on DeQuinder.
Okay.
And a couple other bookstores. Play it for me again, Sam. I don't know what it is. Play it. It's on. It's in Detroit, Irish.
Okay.
Oh, Can You Picture This?
Can You Picture This? Okay.
Yes, and he bought quite a few copies.
Oh,
so.
Excellent, excellent. And we're giving away a copy of the book. If you're the first person to send us an email, we'll get a copy of
great.
Carol Teegardin's book.
And I'll sign it.
Great, excellent. So, do you have any more appearances coming up? Any book signings?
I do. Parkman branch of the Detroit Public Library, and that's coming up on April 24th from 7 to about 9. So,
great.
And I'll be signing and selling books.
Excellent. We'll get that up on the website for you.
Great.
Well, Carol, thank you again so much for having us and joining us again. This is always insightful, and we just love having you here. You're definitely one of our favorite guests on the show. And that's Carol Teegardin, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to buy a copy of her book, Strawberry, available at your local Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. So check it out. It's definitely worth a read. I read it twice so far, and hopefully one day we'll see it as a major motion picture. I think it definitely deserves it. I think it'll make a great movie if there's any.
Who should play Carlita?
Carlita. Oh, boy.
I thought Queen Latifah.
Yeah, Queen Latifah.
She might be a little old. They were all in their 30s, so you have to find young, like Kerry Washington. She could play
I was thinking Forrest Whitaker for Kwame Kilpatrick. That's all the time we have left. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. Actually, okay.